Initially, it looked like Lanterns was going to be a show about Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart going to a small town that may or may not exist in the comics to mostly interact with characters who do not exist in the comics. Characters like William and Billy Macon, Sherrif Kerry, Zoe, and many others. But now it seems like this might not be the case, as we got two back-to-back clues that suggest that these are aliases for DC characters that they wanted to keep a secret, and one of them may very well be Green Arrow. This first started with the casting of Paul Ben Victor as a character named Antaan. Antaan is described as an extraterrestrial devoted to exposing the truth and enacting vengeance against those who wronged his people. Consumed by a deep and unrelenting hatred for the law, he is determined to deliver justice on his own terms. There is no character in the comics that is called Antaan, but this description perfectly fits the Green Lantern villain Atrocitus. Obviously extraterrestrial, he's devoted to exposing the truth of the Manhunters massacre. Atrocitus is billions of years old, hailing from Space Sector 666. Prior to the Green Lantern Corps, the Guardians used robots known as the Manhunters to enforce intergalactic law. The Manhunters went rogue and killed everyone in Sector 666, with the exception of 5 beings, one of whom was Atrocitus. The Guardians shut the Manhunters down before they could move on to another sector and created the Green Lantern Corps instead, but for Atrocitus and the entirety of Sector 666, that was far too late. The description fits, as he'd want to expose the truth about the Manhunter massacre and then exact revenge against those who wronged his people, the Guardians. He hates the law because the Guardians are the law. In the comics, Atrocitus formed the Red Lantern Corps, has an Earth Cat Red Lantern named Dexstar as a sidekick, and, at least initially, was mostly motivated by setting off the Blackest Night prophecy to destroy the Guardians. Paul Ben Victor has actually voiced somebody in the DCU already, so it actually fits for him to then voice someone else and probably not play him in live action aside from maybe mocap, as Atrocitus would likely be a CGI creation. This character is so similar to Atrocitus that if this is not Atrocitus and they for some reason came up with a new villain, an original character named Antaan, it'd be ridiculous. It's Atrocitus. So them casting Atrocitus under the alias Antaan points to the rest of the original characters also being aliases to keep the actual characters a secret. That brings us to William Macon, played by Garrett Dillahunt, who might have spilled some very spicy beans. Garrett posted this on his Instagram story, a storyboard of what is clearly Green Arrow. He then doubled down and posted a colored and realistic looking one with the caption, "Ollie Ollie Oxen Free." This obviously connects to Oliver Queen, or Ollie, but also it's a phrase that's meant to tell people who are hiding in hide and seek to come out. He quickly deleted these posts to make it seem like maybe it was a leak or not on purpose, but I don't know, it seems pretty intentional to me. Like, he's coming out of hiding, no longer hiding the fact that he's not playing a character named Willie Macon, but rather Oliver Queen, and maybe he's telling other actors to reveal who they are playing, obviously as some sort of publicity stunt, not because the actor really wants that to happen. And I think Oliver actually does really fit for what we know about William Macon. William was described as a self-righteous cowboy and a conspiracy-minded man who masks his ruthless ambition behind a charming and calculated facade. Oliver Queen is certainly very self-righteous in his strict beliefs, and he definitely has a conspiracy-minded mindset, at least when it comes to corporations and the government. He's not a literal cowboy, but I don't think they ever meant that literally. He's pretty close to being a modern-day equivalent to one. Him masking his ruthless ambition behind a charming and calculated facade does not sound as much like him. In fact, it sounds kind of villainous, but maybe that was there to throw people off the scent, or maybe his ruthless ambition just means being a violent vigilante, while his charming facade is of the Bruce Wayne type CEO playboy. Garrett is 60, certainly not what I would have cast Oliver as, except, well, Hal Jordan is 60 and Oliver should definitely be close in age to what is hopefully his best friend. I've said it before, but maybe Hal Jordan being 60 points to there being some sort of middle generation of heroes between the Justice Society and the present day. I could see the likes of Barry Allen, Ray Palmer, and definitely Oliver Queen being a part of that generation. The issue is that while Hal and the likes of Barry and Ray do have clear next generation replacements in Jon Stewart or Wally West or Ryan Choi, Green Arrow doesn't really have that. There is Roy Harper, but he's Red Arrow, not Green Arrow. There's Connor Hawke, but he hasn't ever really been the primary Green Arrow, at least not for very long. Still, Oliver being the same age as Hal does make sense, and in this heightened reality, being 60 doesn't necessarily mean the end of a superhero career. Based on this image, they're also giving him a blonde goatee, so absolutely hell yeah. If you're still not convinced, just look at the show. It's clearly inspired by the concept of hard-traveling heroes, where Hal and Oliver went on a very grounded road trip across Middle America, and including Green Arrow in that just seems like a given. Also remember that Gunn has teased Green Arrow multiple times, and is a huge fan, but we haven't gotten any Green Arrow related announcements. This does make a lot of sense. If Garrett is playing Green Arrow, I am definitely more excited for Lanterns. I love Green Arrow, I love Oliver and Hal's friendship, and I really hate it when DC shows are populated mostly by original characters. It just shows a non-willingness to delve into the source material, because there are countless amounts of characters to pick from, so why create original ones? I've honestly never seen Garrett Dillahunt in anything, so let me know in the comments down below if you think he would work as Oliver Queen. So if Antaan and William Macon are actually Atrocitus and Green Arrow, who are everyone else? Well, it's entirely possible not all of these are aliases, but let's just play a game here and assume they are. What DC characters fits each description and actor the best? Sherrif Kerry is played by Kelly MacDonald, a 49-year-old white woman. She's described as a no-nonsense woman deeply devoted to her family and close-knit town. Her resilience, shaped by a complex past that's hardened her resolve, anchors her when the community's secrets begin to surface. She is the love interest of Hal Jordan. Her being a love interest for Hal definitely narrows it down a lot. Looking at Hal Jordan's comic book love interests, there is a clear close pick: Rose Hardin. Appearing specifically in the early era of when Hal Jordan had that white streak to signify his age, Rose was a woman Hal met while visiting a small town named Hope Springs. Rose is a widow with a son named Toby. For a short time, Hal became a sort of father figure to Toby and held romantic feelings for Rose. She's not a sheriff in the comics, but she's devoted to her family, hardened by a complex past to refer to her husband's death and being a single mother. She's from a small town and is a Hal Jordan love interest, even if briefly. I'm not sure why they'd keep such a lesser known character a secret though, so maybe Kerry is actually an original character. Zoe, meanwhile, will be played by Purna Jagannathan, a 52-year-old Indian woman. Zoe is described as effortlessly confident and poised in any setting, even those where she stands out. She's every bit as composed and cunning of the influential men around her. She is the love interest of John Stewart. Her being John's love interest certainly narrows it down. One option is Fatality, a member of the Star Sapphires. She's mostly a villain, but has been a love interest for John. She's an alien, so her ethnicity isn't clear, but she's always drawn with dark skin. I assume that if she were to appear in live action, she'd be played by a black actress, but I think an Indian woman does fit as well. However, that's honestly just based off the fact that she's John Stewart's love interest and she looks like the character. The description doesn't really fit. She's probably effortlessly confident and poised in any setting, but the description specifically mentions the influential men around her. Since she's a Star Sapphire, she's likely mostly surrounded by women, so that doesn't exactly fit. Another option is Katma Tui, John's longest standing love interest and wife, who tragically died. Katma is a member of the Green Lantern Corps who fits the bill of being both effortlessly confident and poised, as well as being as competent as the men who surround her. The Green Lantern Corps definitely has a lot more men than women. Katma is pink, so any ethnicity could play her, and she's an alien, so her actress being in her 50s doesn't necessarily mean the character is. She'll be covered in makeup anyway. Katma is probably the best option, but honestly Zoe feels the most likely to be an original character. Then again, she isn't given a last name, which is true for Kerry as well, so that definitely seems like an alias. Who knows? Waylon Sanders is a very interesting one. Played by Chris Coy, a 38-year-old white man, he's given a very vague description that is ripe for theorizing. Waylon Sanders is an intelligent survivor or nervous truck driver. His age and real name is unknown. He's unbound by the laws of nature. The fact that it says intelligent survivor or a nervous truck driver and he's unbound by the laws of nature, this sounds like some sort of ethereal, cosmic, or maybe even divine being who places himself in somewhere looking like a regular person in order to spectate or give some vague, hard to understand clues. Within the world of Green Lantern, this could be one of the Guardians, but while powerful, they are still bound to the laws of nature. Within the world of DC Comics, I think the Spectre could fit really well. He has divine powers, allowing him to circumvent the laws of nature, and he's definitely the type to do something like this. Maybe that's where Hal's story is headed. Like the comics, he'll become the next Spectre, and they'll stick around for a while, just not as a Green Lantern. Spectre isn't a perfect fit. We do know his name and age. He's Jim Corrigan, likely born in the early 1900s. The Spectre itself is then Astar, maybe billions of years old, but either way, we do know his name. The most fitting character here is, I think, the Phantom Stranger, a mysterious, extremely powerful figure that roams the earth. Prior to the New 52 revealing him to be Judas Iscariot, his origins and name had never been revealed, or there were so many different options and they were so different from each other that there was no way of knowing. The role the description puts him in also sounds like his appearance in Swamp Thing, as a regular looking person appearing briefly to give some advice and to spectate. Finally, is Billy Macon meant to be the son of William Macon, meaning they'd probably be William Macon Sr. and William Macon Jr. He's played by Jason Ritter, a 45-year-old white man. He's described as a good-looking charmer who does his father's bidding, capitalizing on his family's reputation. He clings to the small-town ego and has everything to lose. Now this one I'm not sure about. Billy being William's son does kind of throw a wrench into the idea that William is Oliver Queen, because he does not have a son that fits that description, nor does he fit the description that we get from this. And if this was Oliver Queen and one of his sons, that would mean he has a 45-year-old son. That would mean Connor Hawke or Roy Harper would be 45 years old, which is absolutely absurd. I think, considering the two actors have only 15 years in between them, it's more likely that we're just being lied to. They are not actually father and son. That's just another lie we're being told. Ignoring that doesn't also leave us with much information. Nothing really stands out to the point that any one character from the comics sounds like this is who they'll be playing, but it does sound like it'll be a villain, in which case, going off the inclusion of Atrocitus, Jason Ritter's appearance, and the fact that his name is William, I'm predicting him to be William Hand, aka the Black Hand. Better yet, William Macon, aka Black Hand, because William Hand is a pretty dumb name, and I wouldn't mind them changing his backstory either. I like Black Hand a lot in the comics, but an adaptation changing things up for him is completely fine by me. So, assuming all these original characters are those DC characters, the show wouldn't just have Hal, John, Guy, Sinestro, and John's parents, and then a bunch of original characters. It would have Atrocitus and likely Dexter and the Manhunters, Green Arrow, the Phantom Stranger, Katmatui, and likely a bunch of other Green Lanterns, Rose Harden, and Black Hand. Probably Black Hand will be the big villain. It would be so much more exciting. I would be so much more excited for the show if that was what we had to look forward to. Again, I do not like it when DC shows are full of original characters. This, however, would be a fantastic cast of characters for a grounded Green Lantern show. I am especially excited to see Green Arrow, one of my favorite DC characters ever, seemingly with the full goatee and comic accurate characterization. Hell yeah.